So, finance. Let's take a look at another industry. The supply chain, logistics, and getting things from A to B or moving things from A to B. Well, SAP is a German company very famous for perfecting the supply chain. They now use mobile technology to make things really, really work. I've got one word to say to SAP, Subhashinha. Subhashina. Congratulations. Okay, inventory. Look at the way that inventory has changed because of mobile technologies, RFID, and barcodes. Don't you think that the barcode, creating and inventing the barcode, was one of the most important inventions of the last 50 years? But keeping stock, keeping good inventory, making sure that inventory moves from place to place, that stores are filled, this is now another area that is being affected by the mobile business. How many of you have ever thought that you could bring accounting principles and technology and mobile into inventory control? Maybe you can come up with a completely new way of doing it, thinking of mobile technology. What about sales? The whole sales business. Well, there's a company called Salesforce.com. It's now owned by Oracle, very famous company in America, in Silicon Valley. But Salesforce has completely changed the way that companies now have sales teams. Here's another way in which an industry has been completely turned on its head by new technology, by creativity, and by innovation. In retail, look at Amazon. You know what Amazon's slogan is? We want to have the best customer service on earth. Best customer service on earth. And we heard earlier today with the new way in which you can use your phone as a credit card. I think Tommy, you told us that. Tommy O'Honan told us about how you can, if you don't have a credit card, you can effectively use your mobile phone as a credit card and get something on Amazon. But do you know that the founder of Amazon, Jeff Bezos, do you know what he's worth today? Anyone want to take a guess? How many $1 billion do you think he's worth today from being a retailer? $18 billion. Big deal. $18 billion. He's a very nice guy, and the thing that he loves more than anything else, innovation, creativity, and making Amazon have the best customer service on earth. Those of you who have had any bad experiences on Amazon, there probably won't be anybody in the room because they're such a good company. Publishing. Look at the way publishing has changed. People say that the newspaper industry is doomed. This week, for the first time in history, the main newspaper in New Orleans in America, gone, kaput, goodbye, so long, adios. Same in Philadelphia, same in Denver. Some people are saying that newspapers are doomed. Rupert Murdoch says they are not. But the truth is that publishing is completely changing. And they're changing largely because of this. We're seeing a lot where the iPad is changing things, but of course people still like to read. Believe it or not, in India, newspaper circulation is actually growing. One of the few countries in the world where that is actually happening, but there's no doubt that publishing is changing. The way newspapers are made, magazines are made, it could not be done without technology and innovation. How many of you here might come up with an interesting new way to change or influence or amend the way that electronic publishing is done? There are opportunities for you that might find a home or might find value all over the world. So come on, Sri Lanka, you've got it and you can do it. Let's take another industry, classified advertising. I was looking at the Daily Mirror here this morning and looking at a lot of classified advertising, but there's one guy in Los Angeles who changed classified advertising completely. How many of you have heard of Craigslist? One person? Well, 2, 3, not very many. Well, let me tell you, Craigslist, particularly if you are in America or if you are in Europe, is a way in which classified advertising that you used to see in newspapers was all done online through the internet. If you want to sell something, buy something, hire somebody, do something, you can get it all through Craigslist. And many American newspapers found that their classified advertising started to shrink. Why? Because people found it much, much easier to do it online, and now Craigslist on mobile. Let's take another industry, travel. How many of you have used any of these travel companies? Travelocity, Expedia, yes, yes, yes. Well, of course, there are a lot here in Asia that have mimicked the way that some of these companies work. Expedia and Orbitz, which is another big American company, now account for the most number of air tickets sold for the airlines. The airlines try and compete by making you buy tickets online, like Air Asia, by the way, just voted the world's #1 low-cost airline. The fact that you've got to pay for any suitcase that weighs over 14 kilograms, well, that's the way that they catch you. They don't catch you on the ticket price. They catch you on the suitcase price, or a chicken tikka wrap, which you have to buy in advance. If you don't even get it in advance, they can't sell it to you on the plane. You know what they said to me yesterday when I was coming here? They said, "Would you like something to eat?" I said, "Yes, give me a chicken tikka wrap." They said, "Did you order it in advance?" I said, "No, I didn't." They said, "Then you can't have it." I said, "Why not?" They said, "Because you've got to follow the rules. Everything is done online." And you know who started Air Asia with one airplane? Tony Fernandez, who used to be in the record business. His business was making artists popular in the world of music. And he thought, I'm going to make people popular in the world of airplanes. Started with one plane. He just moved to Jakarta last week because he now wants to build up a much bigger business for Air Asia in Indonesia. But Air Asia, he started everything working online. There's a good example of the way that someone took a great idea and developed a business in an industry which one of you could certainly do. How many of you would like to start an airline here in Sri Lanka that can compete with Air Asia? Anybody? Tommy Ahonen? Yes, no, I know, Tommy, you'd like to do it. Anybody? No? Chitrangani, would you like to do it? You'd like to do it. Very good. I'm glad to see that. Okay, telephony, Skype. Where was Skype born? Skype was born in Latvia, correct? Latvia. Do you know how small Latvia is? It's half the size of Sri Lanka. And of course, who owns Skype today? Microsoft. They bought it from eBay. eBay bought it from the owners. The owners kept the source code when they sold it to eBay. So when it was sold for the second time to Microsoft, they got a second hit of the money. They made $6 billion. $6 billion. And one of the founders of Skype is now one of the biggest venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. So it just goes to show, who would have thought Skype, free phones, and obviously a big risk to telcos, but even in telephony, there's something where someone said, hey, why do people have to pay for the phone when we can do it online on the internet? And now a lot of telcos, including Windows Mobile, are now blessing Skype because for Microsoft, it's very important to use Skype to sell all of their other products. They're not as hip and they're not as clever as Apple, but you know what? Mama Satutin, I'm very, very happy because at least they're working on something interesting and new. Advertising. Look how advertising has changed. You know what? People always used to believe 30-second television commercials on main television stations was the way that you advertised. Not anymore. You advertise on mobile. We heard Tommy showing us some of the numbers of what mobile advertising is. Advertising in every sense has changed because of online and now particularly because of mobile. And of course people say, they used to say only 50% of advertising works, but we don't know which 50%. Now they say most advertising doesn't work unless it's on mobile. So you see, all these things are the ideas of people just like yourself saying, I've got an idea, I think I can make it work, innovation will do it, let's see what we can do. Music, iTunes now probably approaching 15 billion songs, and when they charge 99 cents in the United States or 99 pence in the UK, 70% goes to the content owner. 70%. Only 30% is kept by Apple, which is still a lot of money because Docomo in Japan only keep 10%. So if you're a content owner in Japan, you get 90%. But if you go through iTunes for music or television episodes, you get 70%. And with 15 billion songs phoned, just to give you an idea, one of the major record companies in the world, there are only 4, Universal, Warner Brothers, EMI, which might be sold to Universal, and Sony. To those companies, iTunes is probably $2 to $3 billion a year. It's nearly 20% of the global record business. Really amazing. Let's take another industry, television. We mentioned earlier in one of the talks Netflix. I think Shamal had mentioned Netflix. Netflix, now you get movies online. You don't go to a rental store to get video cassettes anymore. Netflix have got nearly 30 million people that get films from Netflix, which they just get online. Very, very easy way to do it, cheaper, and a big, huge audience getting it every day. Automotive. Anyone recognize what that car is there? Can you see the driver in the car? There isn't one. There's no driver. That car, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, had just recently driven from San Francisco to LA, 400 miles. And you know who was driving inside the car? Nobody. So when the car was pulled over for speeding, what do you think the traffic policeman said to the driver in the car? Well, he went up to the car, and to tell you the truth, he fainted, had a heart attack. He couldn't believe that no one was driving the car. Now, that's not true. But, but the thing is, Google have been experimenting with driverless cars because this might be of great value to people who are blind. Can you imagine a blind person driving a car? That's going to happen in our lifetime. Remember, you saw at the beginning of this talk some of the things that people said couldn't happen. And if I'd said to you, a blind person will be able to drive all the way from Colombo to Kandy and won't hit a single elephant on the way, what would you say to me? Impossible? Yeah, that is possible, sometime in the next couple of years. Manufacturing. Robots now manufacturing under computer programming, and also working with mobile instructions, now common in manufacturing, which is an interesting area. Another industry I'll show you, 3D printing. How many of you have heard of 3D printing? No, surely not so few. 3D printing, where you can print shapes, you can print objects. When I was here last year, I showed a picture of a car that was printed on a 3D printing machine, and I'll show you a picture in a minute about what 3D printing can do. But for design, let's say you are a designer and you want to see exactly what your design will look like within an hour of your design, it can print it out in plastic to show you what it will look like. Space travel, Richard Branson has got a company called Virgin Galactic, and just last week, Elon Musk, who's the guy that founded PayPal, is part of the commercial consortium that launched the first commercial spacecraft that went up to the space station. And now you're going to get public companies, private companies that are going to be going up into space to refuel and to re-equip the space station. But more importantly, 200,000 people have signed up with Richard Branson's company, Virgin Galactic, to go up into space. They're testing this spacecraft right now. It'll take you to the edge of space. You'll have weightlessness, and it costs only $100,000 to go into space. Anybody here interested in going into space? Who would like to go into space? Seriously. Because you know what? I've got some good news for you. It's not going to be $100,000 for too long, because when they start getting this perfected, this will be almost like going on Air Asia to Bangkok. Except, you know, you'll see a little bit of the moon. You'll see it'll be made out of cheese. Well, not really, but they say that it could be. But you will be able to go up into space. And what does this rely on? Computers, innovation, creativity, and of course, design, which is also being guided by technology and innovation and creativity, the very things that the ICTA are going to be developing to a much, much greater degree here in modern-day Sri Lanka. Right? Right. Very good. Materials. There's a whole revolution going on in the kinds of materials that are being made, that are being engineered by technology, innovation, mobile, and computer technology. New kinds of fabrics. How many of you have heard of a science called biomimicry? Well, this is when scientists look at biological animals, insects. Have you ever seen insects that somehow can stick to a wall and not fall down like a chameleon? They analyze what is inside the pads of the feet of a chameleon, and then can synthetically, with compounds and materials that they build, create a similar kind of sticky kind of pad that works brilliantly in new materials invention. Do you think I'm joking? It's true. Some of these materials in this picture is what things are going to change into. You could have an idea. Maybe you're a science graduate, or maybe you know somebody at the university here in Colombo, or who has an idea about materials and material science. These are things that are possible.